You toe the line and you do what you're told. And unfortunately for Alberta, the Conservative Party has completely abandoned their true conservative base. They won't impose pipelines, they won't reduce Quebec's equalization payments or make fair for Alberta. They won't. What was the bell for? Okay. So the Conservatives basically are politically correct and timid. If you want truth, if you want to put Canadians first, you'll need to vote for the People's Party of Canada, since we're the only party that will fight those battles for you in Ottawa. We won't apologize doing what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. I was convinced that not meant to be was going to ring the bell when there's 30 seconds left. I apologize. Honor, please.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here tonight, along with the other candidates. My name is Connor Borley. I'm the candidate for the Green Party. I'm a teacher at middle school, as well as a small business owner. Honestly, just a year ago, I never thought that I'd be doing anything more than in the election. I guess this is what you get for putting your name for volunteer. But in the past, in my life, I voted for basically every house. I always just looked for the candidate and the party that promised the most. I have looked for the candidate and the party that promised the most to benefit my community. But in my experience, I found that what's been promised and what's been hasn't always lined up. So I grew a little bit frustrated with this and with the precedence that elected officials give to their party leaders, small interest groups, or corporate, rather than prioritizing their constituents that are here and that are the ones that put them in power. So within my own family, includes 6 siblings, our partners, and parents. We land all over the political spectrum. But whatever our thoughts are on an issue, at the end of the day, we all know we're still in this together. So coming into this election, I realized I wanted our politics to look a little bit more like our family thing. People with different ideas and beliefs figuring out a way forward. We might not agree on everything, but there is respect and a place for everybody at the table. The more I read and informed myself of the political parties, I found that the Green Party was the party most set up to follow this ideal. The Green Party has said support good ideas from any party and push for more cooperation in Parliament. I've had the privilege of meeting with several town councils and village councils here, and throughout that time, the question I always ask is what matters to you? And if I was elected your MP, in my time in office, I was asked what matters to you, because to me, that's what should guide every decision ever made by an MP.
Well, thank you very much, and indeed it's an honor to be here this evening. And my name is Earl Grecian. My family settled in the Pine Lake area in 1903. It was an era when families helped neighbors and communities flourish because people worked together. And I was taught by example that hard work and commitment is necessary to help your community survive. And having served as a Central Alberta Member of Parliament for the last 11 years, I'm honored to continue that same commitment for my community and for the constituents of Red Deer Mountain View. But I was also very fortunate to have 2 work passions, farming and teaching. My 34-year career as a math science teacher, a coach, and a mentor was so very special to me. It is also where I first met my good friend Myron Thompson as a no-nonsense administrator with a heart of gold and an iconic political figure that proved you could be true and respectful to your fellow man. I also served for many years in the Elmore Hospital Board as its chair, which has given me a unique perspective of our healthcare system. So politically, I've served many roles, both in government and in opposition, and I've seen how Canada is viewed on the world stage. It's the difference between conservative leadership and liberal leadership, between statesmanship and showmanship, which has never been. This Prime Minister disregarded ethics, the rule of law, and for keeping his word, as well as his inappropriate antics, which is now being ridiculed globally. Canada deserves better. Andrew Scheer and our Conservative team will bring back Canada's global pride. and we'll work to make your lives better and more affordable, as we believe that the best economic stimulus is money left in your hands for you to spend as you see fit. It's critical that Justin Trudeau is a one-term Prime Minister, and the only way that that will happen is with a majority Conservative government. I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you. Logan, please.
Good evening, folks. My name is Logan Garbinski, and I'm the NDP candidate for our riding. I'm a full-time education student at Redder College, and I'm an expectant father and a working-class citizen. I believe it's time we had a back and forth of conservative and liberal governments. For too long, liberal and conservative governments told Canadians to expect less, cutting back on services, special deals for big corporations and big polluters, and giving tax breaks to their wealthiest friends. Instead of lowering costs for Canadian families, they have delivered outrageous giveaways to the richest few, and our current provincial one are telltale signs of what a federal conservative government will do for us now. For decades, governments in Ottawa have been making
Choices get doled out more money. It depends on the income level, and if we can be proud of the income level. Would I like to see it change? I don't know. To be honest, we go through boom and bust cycles. There'll be times when there'll be more out than there is in. I'll say though, in the last 4 years, we've seen a lot more in than we've ever seen. And that's, so I'd like that to continue. And that's all I'll say.
Market value, and they won't do the same for Quebec hydroelectricity. That's at a subsidy rate. That's how they rate it. We would change that. It only requires a cabinet decision. It can be changed in a single day, and we will fight for that day to happen.
Second question. What is your plan for
River Health Services has some work to do to try and make sure that that we can cover that. But on the federal side, because this is where we have to make sure that we look at affordability. And so in our party platform, we are looking at significant things like getting rid of the targeting, at changing the income tax and reducing the amount of tax that people are going to have to pay. We're looking at taking the GST off of home heating fuels. Again, as you deal with that, and again, with the seniors age credit. So these are opportunities to put more money in people's pockets. When we were in government, it was the first time that there was a major change in the amount of judgments that seniors have. So these are the kinds of things that we can anticipate, so these are parts, just small parts of our platform to try to make sure that we can help our seniors and so that they have the opportunities to stay in their communities. And of course, we have groups and amazing people that are doing so much work to ensure that takes place. And we should be encouraging those volunteers so that have the type of society that we want for our seniors.
Thank you for the question. And for the Green Party of Canada, we believe that a guaranteed livable income for all Canadian citizens would really remedy a lot of the issues faced by our aging population. Pharmacare, universal pharmacare, public transportation, and affordable housing are all things that we believe will contribute to the quality of life of seniors. The Green Party wants to support innovative home sharing plans and home care plans so that seniors can stay inside their house, in their home. And beyond that, if you're ever forced out of your house, the Green Party wants to create more long-term care beds in neighborhood facilities. And this is something that's actually really cool. My grandmother went from Villeneuve out to just northeast of Edmonton, a small farming town, and they built a seniors complex in my grandparents' backyard because they didn't have support from the provincial or federal government at the time, but it was built by the community. I do a charity run for it every year, and my grandmother lived there, and community seniors like that are what's really important to me because one of her best friends who had to go to Edmonton Seniors Complex, when they built this, her answer was, I'm going home, I'm returning home. And to me, that really hits close to mine, and that's why the Green Party wanted to create more beds in neighborhood facilities is important to me.
When it comes to helping seniors, we have to look at a couple different issues. First of all, let's take a step back to the last question. A lot of the services that are provided are done, and yet in equalization, we have $20 billion pot, of which $0 goes to Alberta. So by fixing the equalization system, it will help all Albertans, including the seniors here. Number two, we need to prioritize our seniors. Right now, if a illegal member crosses at a place like Roxham Road, they're immediately eligible for twice the maximum benefit of a Canadian senior, and that's absolutely outrageous. We need to prioritize Canadians first and help our seniors, not illegal border jumpers. Number three, services. And the main service, I guess, healthcare. So we are going to take the GST tax away from Ottawa and hand it back to the province aided healthcare fund. And by handing back to the people of Alberta what they already paid out when they made their purchases, it will significantly increase healthcare funding here in Alberta, 25 to 30%. Number four, we're going to take a look at cost of living. Right now, the Bank of Canada has that inflation target where they're trying to actually make up, which of course doesn't exactly help seniors that are on a lower income. So we are going to make sure that the inflation target for the Bank of Canada is 0.
Well, I can't really remember where I was when Stephen Harper was in Davos, Switzerland, and he said, you know what, if you're a poor senior, now you can wait till you're 67 to retire. One of the first things Justin Trudeau back was 65. In the last 4 years, we've seen increases to OAS, 12,000 new seniors housing complexes. We worked on GIS, now we're working on pharmacare. The reason was always about whether the seniors can afford to live on their own anymore, and that's what it comes down to. I often think, what if I retired 20 years ago on a pension, on a fixed pension? Where will pension get me now? Not a lot. You know, it makes me frightened to keep their homes. So I'm glad to see that we're investing in this, well, the seniors of tomorrow, putting a lot more money into the seniors programs in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, so I'm not walking back and forth. I'll ask the question. What is your stance on rural crime?
Well, thank you very much, and I know that there are a number of people here that had some of the rural crime sessions that we had as I was the vice chair of the Alberta Caucus Rural Crime Task. Really, some of the things that we found in that particular report had to do with the prosecutions and the situations where people were going to jail, the police were doing their job, but people were simply being released again. And these are issues, they concern, it's something families were looking at, saying, how can we feel safe in our own homes? And so that was one of the things we've been looking at, and of course, with that, we have with the provincial government to make sure that the judges that we require are going to be here, that the resources are there for the RCMP. So that's the second side of it. But there's a lot of other things that happen for small municipalities. So I think we have to realize that as we continue to work on this issue, that we do it together, and our citizens on parole, those are the other ones. That there's great work that is done there, and I think that would be the key components. But this report that we have done, and it's about a 50-page report. It went into to be studied in the Liberals reduced it down to 3 pages, and which basically meant then that we were going to be presenting anything. So they did not take it seriously. It was something that was extremely frustrating. It was a great report, and it came to the discussions and the information that we have with people such as yourselves.
I think the first priority for addressing rural crime in Canada is to stop the apathy from the federal government over the last decade or so. The federal government hasn't recognized rural crime as a major issue, even though for alone we have approximately 40% higher crime rates in rural Alberta than we do in the urban centers. So I think stopping the apathy and realizing that it is an issue that needs to be addressed really is step number one. Step number two from the Green Party would be to empower municipalities more. In doing so, or to do so, we need sustainable funding by committing the full point of the GST to municipalities.
Right now, the way that the budget works, municipalities across the country split only 8% budget. That's not nearly enough for municipalities to deal with situations like low crime rate. It's the municipalities that know best how to deal with the crime rates, and so it's those municipalities that need to be empowered and emboldened by the federal government to do so. Just last night, my campaign manager met with the council in Elnora, and they said one of the best strategies that they had is they used to have a school resource officer, but that really improved the crime rates in their community. But due to funding cuts, they were no longer able to have that. And the Green Party would ensure that municipalities, particularly in rural areas, never lose.
The People's Party of Canada is going to impose pipelines right away using section 9210 of the Constitution. It's not up to Quebec or BC or other provinces or other groups to shut down our pipeline production. So when you section 9210 of the Constitution, you just pass a bill through the House of Commons or by any other province. And we'll just keep going until we get some of these pipelines approved. We also need to get the approval process very significantly. Right now, it takes up to about 3 years to get a project approved. That's way too long. We don't need to look at the intersection of sex and gender to build pipelines. The approval process under 6 months, we're going to do that. And we also need to repeal a couple of bills that were terrible from the Trudeau government, Bill C-4869. So we are going to really move this project forward. We need to get the shovels in the ground, and the People's Party of Canada is going to fight hard for this.
Is happening. The suggestion that there's only one party that is going to assert
The current debt, future debt, the unfunded union pensions,
Ridiculous spending that you could ever imagine. If you take a look through it, you better be sitting down, or else you might just fall down, from shock. Some of the things that we spend money on. We're spending $2.3 billion this year and giving it to foreign dictators to fight climate change. We're giving.
No idea. So, I mean, that's something.
A new Democrat barely a slap on the wrist for it. A new Democratic government would also eventually like to abolish the Senate, but in the meantime, we would insist that the Senate change its rules so that unelected senators can't hold for months when it's already been adopted by members of parliament and sent by vote.
has to happen. Well, quite frankly, by the time we finished in 2015, we once again left the Liberals' budget at a surplus. So those are the kinds of, you always hear this, but it isn't true. And if you think of the types of things that we have, stimulus and the reduction of the GST from 7 down to 5%, that was dollars put in your pocket. And those dollars put in your pocket, stimulus came from, which is why Canada was one of the first countries to get out of the global recession, and we were lauded throughout the world. Jim Flaherty was touted as the best finance minister in the world. It wasn't because he was following the Trudeau plan.
So the Green Party has a plan to balance the budget by 2024, not future. But the strategy isn't just to cut spending. Canadians across the country use our social services, so cutting services shouldn't be the solution. It should be to increase revenue. The Green Party of Canada would like to do tax reform, tax system, which hasn't been reformed since the 1960s. The fair tax reform would target the wealthiest and the richest, with those with more than $20 million in assets. Now, I think that's a pretty fair tax. E-commerce companies like Amazon, Google, Netflix, giant portion of Canadian money, but pay hardly anything in taxes because of loopholes in our current system. The Green Party wants to close that. We'd like to raise our corporate tax rate to equal that in the United States, our closest competitor. Tax banks scoop the top three. Last year had a net income of $43.15 billion and are not taxed at the same rate as your average corporation. As my small business, banks are taxed at a lower rate, and they made $43 billion last year in Canada. So the Green Party will close those tax loopholes for the biggest and least in Canada, so that it's not Canadian citizens that are paying for those taxes. It's the companies that are making the most money off of our resources, our natural resources, that it's those come through our taxes.
thank you. let's do that first. I didn't get lost. What experience do you have that you will bring forward and help our agricultural industry?
Geez, agriculture. Well, I mean, agriculture is all about trade deals. We are Liberals were the only that has trade deals with all 7 of our G7 nation members. Because we are a trading nation, we're not using all our agriculture. We're mainly selling our wheat overseas. So more trade deals is the answer, and we've done the best so far. I think wheat is actually on a record high this year. I can't say the same thing for soybeans, unfortunately. But maintaining trade deals is where it's at.
So for agriculture experience, I have none to speak on. I was born in Whitecourt, Alberta. Over there on a farm. We just had enough cows to be considered a land. We didn't farm them. The New Democratic Party understands that agriculture is the backbone of our economy and an incredible source of pride for our communities, and it's a high depends on talented and skilled workers. And thousands of families rely on this, and farmers are really faced with challenges, and the New Democratic Party would like to team up with farmers across Canada and the provincial government to develop a national strategy to address mental health challenges that farmers face and ensure that they can get the help that they need when they need it. Invest in public agriculture research and data collection will ensure that rail transportation treats farmers fairly and helps them get their products to the market efficiently and effectively. And we'd also like to, talking back to trade deals, a huge thing right now is China not taking our canola and to bully their way into agreement we had with the United States. We think it's important to stand up to bullies like that, and if they don't want to buy our canola, we'll find elsewhere. The world's a big market, and we'll find somebody who will actually appreciate what we have to offer.
Thank you, and I am a farmer. My wife is busy fixing the grain cart tonight and making sure that the driver is working, and I appreciate that. Quite frankly, though, and I do appreciate what you just mentioned on the mental health challenges for farmers and ranchers, because Deputy Shadow Minister for Agriculture was actually my study that was presented, and I had the opportunity to talk to many people on the concerns and the issues. And part of it that people don't recognize is the attacks that there are on agriculture, because that is as difficult as anything. We saw what happened farm down in southern Alberta. This is a group of activists that come in, it's biosecurity, all of these other types of concerns that we have without any concern whatsoever, and maybe a bit of a slap on the wrist. Nothing was done about it. And so that's part of how you're going to look at your farmers. The other part is the tools that we have to be able to produce the best quality of grains and meats around them. We've allowed other actors to come in and denigrate what it is that we have done. It happened in our oil and gas system. When they talk about dirty oil, well, the oil companies never got their act together. They allowed other foreign groups to come in and to make money on and that is going to happen in agriculture if we're not paying attention to it. And we see the same thing with GMOs, and we look at the issues that are associated with that. No one understands what. But you want to compare it to what is happening in Europe, where they mutate the genes and where radiation is being used. But hey, that's been going on years. So that's the good stuff. It's the things that you're doing in North America that is bad. I think we have to start standing up for our farmers.
The Green Party of Canada recognizes the fact that farmers are the original environmentalists. No one cares more about soil quality, water quality, and air quality than farmers, and in particular local farmers. Most of our food source, about 90%, comes from from multinational giant corporations and conglomerates. We also invest in local farms and local farmers, providing support and any training to any farmers that are local Canadian. Targeting rebates so that it's not based on yield and based on farm. Because right now, based on yield means that a giant corporate farms and conglomerate farms pay higher rebates than the small local farmers. The Green Party would invest in more farmers markets and local stores that sell local produce. The Green Party realizes that it's our farmers that are going to feed our next generation, and that it shouldn't be coming from wherever we're getting our food source from right now. The thing rates for farmers, and it's farmers to enter the industry now just because of how much we've let corporate farms take over. And the Green Party wants to support any new farmers coming in with free education and training and subsidy them get started in the industry, because I think everybody in this room realizes how difficult it is with how much preference and favor large conglomerates see from the recent government.
So what's my experience? Well, first farmer, and I'm not gonna come to your farm and tell you how to grow canola or what you should be doing with your beef cattle. What my experience is, I started out as a researcher for the Reform Party back in the 90s, and then I transitioned to working with Bob Mills, who was a member of Parliament for Red Deer, and he was the foreign affairs critic for the Reform Party. So I have quite a bit of experience in dealing with these foreign policy issues and trade issues, and that is the way we would focus on it. So I've met with the ambassador of China previously, and I know that those type of trade relationships are extremely important. And our current government has completely dropped the ball when it comes to all of our trade relationships. We used to be one of the most respected countries in the world, and now we're a laughingstock. Many of our major trading partners, like China, won't even return our phone calls from our Prime Minister or our Foreign Affairs Minister. So we need to repair the damage that was done. We also have a bad relationship with the United States, and there's many other countries around the world that are now shunning Canada on a general basis, and that hurts our farmers. They need access to international markets, and that is where I would use my expertise to try and help rebuild these issues. We need to have international markets available to our farmers, and that's where I would focus things. Let the farmers do what they do best, and let the government provide the environment that they need so that they can get their products to the best markets available at the best prices.
Thank you. Next question is an immigration question. Do you support open borders? Do you support immigrants receiving full benefits? And do you support vetting immigrants and putting an annual cap on number accepted in Canada each year?
The New Democrats understand that that immigrants help build our economy and help make a stronger Canada, and that we should be open, not open borders, but we should have open arms to quality workers and quality people who want to become Canadian citizens. I believe there's a mayor somewhere in Ontario who said that not all Canadians are necessarily born here. They just take a little bit to get here. And really, everybody should have the same opportunities that we are lucky enough to have here in Canada. And we should be more than happy to share those with me.
Well, first of all, the Safe Third Country Agreement that is not being enforced, and the issues that are taking place at the border at this particular point in time when this Prime Minister said, come to Canada. That was irresponsible. Sadly, we watched as our RCMP had to be porters for them as they moved from one place across the border to wherever it was that they were going to be housed. So these are frustrations, but these are the kinds of things that happen when you see no leadership from the Prime Minister's office and from the Public Safety office. And so this has been such a frustration because, believe me, there are many people in this world that we would be so honored to have as Canadians. And so that we have to make sure that we recognize that. And, so we have those that are in refugee camps that are being discriminated against because they are Christians. Some of them aren't even allowed in the refugee camps because the problems and the fears that they would have. So we've seen this happen, and quite frankly, it has taken too long. And we have to make sure that we follow the rules, that the rules that are there are being respected, and then we have to make sure that we keep the numbers where they should be, so that we can make sure that they can be accommodated in the matters that they need to have education, they need to learn our language. So those are things that are going to benefit us in the future. But right now, we have to make sure that we follow the rule of law.
So the Green Party of Canada does not believe in wide open borders and just letting anyone in that feels like coming in. We do believe in vetting the people coming into our country, because we totally agree with Earl. There's lots of people around the world that would be great Canadians, that would love to have. My family originally immigrated from Belgium. My brother's wife, her family is she's second generation from Holland. We have great people that have come to Canada and contributed so much to our economy and to the blessings and the joy of being in our nation with the multiculturalism. So from the Green Party's perspective, no, it's not open borders, but we shouldn't close our borders. We shouldn't shut out any immigration, because the immigration that comes has historically proven to be beneficial for Canada and Canadians. Now, we agree that we need to follow the proper processes and procedures in bringing Canadians in and making sure that they are given access to learning our language and learning our customs so that they can be productive and functioning members of our society. That's absolutely necessary, and the Green Party will support that. But as far as open borders, no, but also no to closed borders.
Canada has an immigration system that's completely out of control. We are bringing in 350,000 people next year, and that's the entire population of Manitoba in just 4 years. The People's Party of Canada is the only party that is committing to significant reductions in immigration rates. And that's because we've been listening to Canadians, and 63% of Canadians want lower immigration. We're the only party that is actually going to come out and come up with some numbers. Earl said, quote, keep the numbers where they should be. But notice that Andrew Scheer and the Conservative Party never say where those numbers are actually supposed to be. What we're saying they should be is between 100 and 150,000 maximum, down from this coming year at 350,000. We also need to prioritize economically beneficial immigrants, because at the moment, only 26% of the immigrants coming into Canada are economically beneficial. So I think if you do the math, that means 74% are not. So we need to prioritize the right people that are coming in for the right reasons. And when they're coming in, I think that they also need to realize that this is Canada and that we have a certain set of values and traditions that we hold dear in this country. We need to treat men and women equally. We need to have equality before the law. We can't discriminate against people on the basis of, the various charter-protected freedoms that we have here. Our charter-protected freedoms and our Constitution is the highest law in the land. There is no Sharia law or something like that that's going to be above Canadian law. That is not going to be happening here in Canada. So we are going to screen and vet the people coming to our country to make sure that we have economically beneficial immigrants, and that the system is sustainable, and that we put Canadians first, and our immigration system should be for the benefit of our country.
Well, I happen to think we have one of the best immigration systems in the world. We have a merit-based system that's really good. A lot of people don't know, I mean, most people don't know that we've been taking in between 200 and 300,000 immigrants a year for probably the last 20 years, maybe. If these people didn't come to our country, our economy would crash. You can't keep growing your country without people to sustain the workforce. Also, you can't have the retirement rates that we're having in our country unless we can bring in, unless we have workers to actually support paying into the tax system to keep those programs alive. And this is just the reality. I really like that we stopped asylum shopping, though, something that Justin Trudeau brought in the last 4 years. where people would just, they couldn't get into the US, so they would, jaunt across the border to Canada and claim asylum as their second choice. And I'm glad we stopped that. That's crap. That just recently came in, Joe announced that about 6 months ago. I can Google it for you if you like. But we do have one of the best systems in the world. We're not keeping people in cages like the US, because that's economically ridiculous. But what I don't agree with is a temporary foreign worker program. I don't agree with that. Either you come here and you stay here as a Canadian, and you work and you contribute, you buy a house and a car and you do for the economy. It's not about coming here in large numbers and sending money overseas, because that doesn't contribute to the economy at all. It just means I get a coffee faster and Tim Hortons in the morning, but it doesn't contribute to the economy. Either Canadians or not. I don't believe in half Canadians, but that's it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna Google that.
Next question. How will your party restore Canada's place on the national stage?
Well, thank you very much, and definitely, we need to have strong leadership on the world stage. We've seen the international headlines that this Prime Minister has had, and quite frankly, it is starting to be an embarrassment. We've looked at the inexcusable private behavior, we've looked at the ethics violations, we see the same type of thing with his actions when he goes overseas as when his father was doing the pirouette behind the Queen. I mean, it is disdain, he is more important than anybody else, and this is what is extremely frustrating. So really what we have to do is to start to rebuild some of these relationships that have been so serious. And so when we're dealing with this, we have to recognize the concerns. We have to also look at what is happening as far as foreign affairs is concerned. Here we have a situation where we have the foreign affairs minister goes and tweets to Saudi Arabians about her concerns about their national government. What did that amount to? Us not being able to sell our cereal grains to Saudi Arabia. So these are the kinds they pay no attention to it. They have never stood up for Canadian farmers, Canadian producers, and I've been in China. I was in China a year ago, and they were so excited about having our canola oil and having our beef and having our pork going there. And then all of a sudden, we have this disaster that has taken place. So there's a frustration. We have to make sure that we stand up to it and we recognize where the dollars are being spent in the future, and that's something that the Conservative government will be paying attention to.
The Green Party of Canada, to restore Canada's place internationally, will be leaders in the next generation of energy production and the next generation of economic policy. The Green Party of Canada is the only party that's put forward plans to address automation across all industries, because job loss rates are becoming more due to automation than anything else in our society. And the Green Party wants to be a leader on the cutting edge of that, and the Green Party wants to invest in science and technology science, technology, and research, so that we are selling our ideas internationally in the green economy, in green renewable energies, that our ideas are the ones that are being used internationally, and we're selling those ideas and making profit off of them. Canada is full of bright and brilliant and talented individuals, and we should be profiting off of those Canadians rather than trying to buy information or buy patents from other countries. So that's how Canada and the Green Party of Canada will restore Canada to its place internationally.
So, first of all, we need to fire Justin Trudeau, because he has been an embarrassment. And, now, I think we are maybe taking a bit of a wrong approach here. We should be not worrying about various international prestige items, and we need to promote Canadian interests. And the People's Party of Canada is going to have a Canada First foreign policy. We're not going to worry about trying to win seats at the United Nations and try and impress other people by donating Canadian dollars all over the world to try and bribe other international actors. That is not the way. We are going to try and help our businesses get into international markets, and we are going to focus on Canadian interests. And as far as the UN goes, I know both Andrew Scheer and Justin Trudeau would really like a Security Council seat, but we actually have no interest in that at the People's Party of Canada. We are going to withdraw from all of our harmful UN agreements and focus on bilateral relationships and multilateral relationships with our friends and allies. And we're not going to worry about the UN. That is a completely corrupt organization that wastes a lot of money and frequently works completely contrary to our Canadian interests. And so we will focus on Canada First policy in terms of foreign affairs. And we're not going to worry about grandstanding or playing Mr. Dress Up like Mr. Trudeau. We're just going to get the job done for Canadians.
First off, I live in the best country in the world. I know it, and the world knows it. We are number one in almost every metric around the world. We're the best place to do business, the best place to live, the best place to raise kids, the best quality of education. What metric are we failing? That's what I want to know. We're a nation of 36 million people. We're a trading nation. Our relationships are so important around the world. Belonging to the UN, being a leader, investing in areas that are getting hit by climate change. I mean, we worry about immigration. Well, if we don't actually help the people that are being hurt around the world, they're coming here. I mean, why would they stay home? Let's be honest. So foreign aid is one of the most important things we actually do. But I'm proud of where I live. I'm proud of where we are as a country. I'm proud of how we look to the rest of the planet. We look around the crazy stuff that's happening around us. Look down south. Oh my God, how can you think that we're worse than that? We are literally one of the best countries on the planet. I don't know what we got to do other than stay the course when the world's going crazy around us. That's all I can say about that. Stay the course. Don't change radically. We're doing good.
Let's make Canada great again.
We got us there.
Well, the New Democrats believe that we really need a leader who's going to stand up for Canadians to foreign powers, whether those foreign powers be foreign governments or foreign corporations. We need a leader who's going to stand up for Canadian interests and Canadian workers, and stand up to bullying governments who try to bully us into trade deals that benefit them more than they benefit us. We need a new North American Free Trade Act, one that benefits Canada and not the bully down south, Donald Trump. We need a leader who's going to take the climate crisis seriously and lead Canada in front of the world and show the world how it's done and how to really take issues seriously. Thank you.
As we know, time is running short. I'm going to ask this last question because I think it's a very important question for somebody in area. And then hopefully the candidates can give a quick answer and we can get into their closing comments. Have you heard of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses and its small business platform? How is your party going to address the rising costs for small businesses, including EI and CPP costs?
As a small business owner, this is close to home. The Green Party of Canada is well aware of the fact that small businesses contribute more to our GDP annually than any other industry. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, they're the backbone of our country. So the Green Party of Canada wants to support small businesses. One way that we can support small businesses is by making our healthcare more universal to cover pharmacare and eventually working towards dental care and vision, so that saves corporate or small businesses money on their insurance costs for their employees. with a guaranteed livable income that the Green Party is proposing. With that, things like EI would no longer be needed. EI would be eliminated. So that would be a cost save towards small businesses. But the Green Party of Canada wants to invest in small businesses and wants small businesses to continue to be the biggest part of our GDP and stop giving massive cuts and massive rebates to giant corporations that, let's be honest, don't really care about Canadian workers because layoff. Quarterly reports look like they are still growing. That's why Albertans lost jobs. Small businesses, mine included, we will fight tooth and nail not to have to lay off our employees. So small businesses are the most important business in Canada.
The biggest problem for small business is government and government interference in their activities and government taxation. So we need to get the burden down on our small business people. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is by cutting their tax rate. We're going to go to a 10% flat tax for entrepreneurs in Canada from the current 15%, and that will make a huge difference. How are we going to do that? Well, first of all, it's a change in priorities. Right now, we give about $5 to $7 billion a year to big corporations like SNC Lavalin, Bombardier, GM, BlackBerry, all of the others that have paid lobbyists, and it's their job to empty out your wallets and transfer the money to their companies through Ottawa. Well, we're going to end that program because not only does it cost a lot of money, but it also creates an unholy alliance between our politicians and these big companies. So we're going to completely end that program, and we are going to cut the taxes for small businesses and get the government out of their way. The last thing that a small business owner needs is a bureaucrat telling them what they're supposed to do. They know what they're supposed to do. They're the ones that created the business. They're the ones that know their staff the best. They're the ones that know the local market the best. So we are going to create the environment that they need to succeed. And so that their customers will have more money in their pocket, we're going to significantly cut taxes for all workers in Canada. From 0 to 15,000 in income, there will be no income tax. From 15,000 all the way to 100,000, it will be a flat tax of only 15%. And for income over 100,000, it'll be a flat tax of just 25%. So much lower income taxes, no carbon tax, and no replacement for the carbon tax like Andrew Scheer wants to do. He wants to move it over to the heavy emitters, which is code for the Alberta oil and gas sector. So we are going to lower taxes for all Canadians, get government out of the way, and that will help all small businesses.
Well, let's face it, trickle down has never worked. The conservative mantra, the first thing you get in office, cut taxes for corporations and the wealthy, cut services to everybody else to pay for it. That's the wrong way. We know that small business is what's propelling our economy in Canada. All our growth is basically at the small business level. They're the major employers in Canada. Thank goodness we just decreased taxes from 11 to 9% on small businesses. Which was a great step in recognizing that they're the ones that are actually helping Canada get into the future. They're employing me. I work for a small business. I completely get it. I just think we need to give the money to the businesses at the bottom as opposed to the top and allow that money to work its way up through the economy. And that's how we'll survive with small businesses.
The New Democrats recognize that a shortage of workers is a major barrier for many small businesses operating in rural areas. And will make important new investments in training Canadians and to boost support to traditionally underemployed groups, ensuring that they can access good jobs and be paid a fair wage no matter where they are. We'd also like to introduce universal pharmacare, which I've brought up before, which we estimate would save approximately $600 per employee for a small business. And the New Democratic government would also like to streamline access to government export services and make it simpler for small businesses to break into foreign markets. We'd also like to introduce public affordable childcare so that young families can afford to put their child in childcare and not have to delay going back to work or have to choose family over career. They can have both. Thank you.
Well, the question is on the study for CFIB and some of the concerns and issues that they have, of course, with EI and CPP. I think one of the most critical things that we've seen in the last couple of years was the Liberal government of Trudeau and Morneau saying that small business people are tax cheats. And, so the frustration that we had there, 97% of businesses in Canada are small business. And there are so many of them that are actually making less money than the people that they have working for them. And so, when you look at the dollars of theirs, anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 is what the income level is for some of these small business people. The discussion is, we have corporate farms and so on. Well, the fact that you might want to make your farm a corporation does not make you a corporate farm. So these are the kinds of issues and concerns that we have. So we have to make sure that the discussion is real. We have to look at the fact that people are being taxed to death, and we have to make sure that we deal with that. As far as funding is concerned, with places like Bombardier and so on, I'll tell you, that is extremely frustrating. I spent some time with the Bombardier people after the Quebec government had bought the C-Series jet. Asked them directly, do you need any money from the federal government? They said no, but the check was still cut. This is the frustration that we have. We have to make sure that people respect the Canadian taxpayer.
Thank you. I'm sorry if your question did not get asked. Because of the time restraints that we had to cut the questions off at this time. So now we're going to go to closing comments, and I'm going to scare the order up a little bit, but I'm going to ask Logan to come up first, please. Again, maximum 3 minutes for a meeting.
I'll keep it under that, I need to get there. In closing, I'd just like to remind everyone of the failures of past governments, how they failed to look out for Canadians, and how they failed to make life more affordable for everyone. It's time we made life more affordable for you, and not the corporate elite who cozy up to the leaders of the Liberal and Conservative governments. Everyone should have the right to a safe and affordable place to call home. And agriculture is the backbone of our economy, and as I said before, an incredible source of pride for our communities. It's time we make different choices. It's time for a government that's actually working on the side of Canadian farmers, producers, and farm families. It's time we expanded healthcare to cover all the needs that has to do with the person's health. It's time we step forward and to lead the world in protecting our environment and our home. And it's time we stop the balancing back and forth between Liberal and Conservative governments and expecting things to change. It's time for a new deal for Canadians. It's time for a government who's in it for you. Thank you so much for your patience with me guys tonight. This is only my second forum. Thank you for organizing this tonight and inviting all of us out. And a big thank you to everybody who came out to listen. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Logan. Donna, would you come up next, please?
As an elected official for the Green Party of Canada, my job would be to represent you. The Green Party of Canada is the only major federal party that does not whip the votes of its MPs. So my job is to come to my constituents and see what is best for Red Deer Mountain View, what is best for the people of Sundre, the people of Olds, Innisfail, Elnora, all of the communities within Red Deer Mountain View. So as a Green MP, that would be my job. Now, I'll be honest with you, I won't always say exactly what you want to hear or go for the rah-rah cheers, things that will get me the most support. Because for me, what I will be concerned with is about just telling you the truth, about discovering the most basic needs of my constituents and determining through research and real-life examples the best ways to meet those needs, even if it's something that seems a little out of the norm. I won't concern myself with the pomp and circumstance and customs of elected office, sucking up to the right people or making the right first impression to anybody. Nothing will distract me from serving you. I know I stay pretty put together at the front here, but I am the youngest sibling of 6 kids. So I can assure you that I can be loud, because otherwise I don't get fed. I can be annoying, my brothers will attest to that. And I am very, very, very difficult to ignore. So if I was representing Red Deer Mountain View on the Hill, I can tell you that I will hold our politicians accountable, I won't be ignored, and because democracy should represent its people, I think that I should be responsible to you. And as the Green MP, that's what I would be. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, I'd like to have Gary come up, please.
First, I just want to say thanks for having me out. You guys were all so nice. I did feel like the lamb in the lion's den tonight, but it was fun. It was my first forum ever. And I hope that maybe I said some things that sparked some ideas in you guys tonight. Maybe go and check some stuff out that I said and say, is he full of crap? Oh, wait, maybe he's not. That's all I ask for. I only ask that going forward during this election campaign, if you're reading things in the paper, if it says opinion piece at the top, throw it away. Investigate things on your own. Don't believe what people tell you, but that you didn't look up yourself. That's what I would say. We're doing great in this country. By all metrics, we're probably one of the best countries in the world. In terms to live, to grow, to have a business, there's not many places better than this right now. And all I ask is stay the course. Stay the course. We're doing really good in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, more of the same isn't good enough. More of the same is exactly what got us into our current mess. The traditional parties take bad ideas from Ottawa and hang them around your neck. For example, the Conservative Party, they tell their MPs how to vote on every issue. That's been happening for too long. It's a real shame. Luckily, there is a high probability of a minority government, and this is precisely the opportunity that Alberta needs to take advantage of right now. By electing a strong crop of People's Party of Canada members of Parliament, Alberta can hold the balance of power in a minority government. If we hold the balance of power, the People's Party of Canada will demand pipelines be imposed. We'll demand a fair equalization system for Alberta. We'll push Alberta issues right to the front of the line. Earl Region and his Conservative colleagues from Alberta, well, they don't believe that pipelines should be imposed, or that Quebec should have major cuts to their equalization payments. They would rather fight to out-green the Green Party by having the highest commitment of any party to enforce the toxic United Nations Paris Accord. That's their position, even though it puts our Alberta oil and gas industry squarely in the bomb sites. Even though it forces Canada to fork over billions of dollars to foreign countries. The People's Party of Canada says no. We will put Canadians first. We will pull out of all harmful UN commitments and support our Canadian people. We will restore sanity to our immigration system and put a full stop on all illegal border jumping. We will also prioritize Canadian issues like reforming the healthcare system and reducing wait times so that everyone in this room will have access to proper healthcare services. Our plan to use the GST tax as a dedicated healthcare fund does exactly this. We'll slash taxes and reduce the size of the federal government. That's a commitment that we'll be very happy to do. And we'll allow our individual members of Parliament to fight hard for local issues. That's why I've already spent so much time to develop bills on property rights, rural protection, and ending late-term abortion. Check them out on ppccanada.ca. Alberta has waited long enough. True Conservatives were abandoned, but the People's Party of Canada are here to fight for you. No more waiting, no more excuses. In 3 weeks, we can hold the balance of power in Ottawa. So vote for your values, fight for your kids and grandkids. Don't let their future be sold out. Join me, together, united, we will win.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, and it's been an interesting evening and an opportunity to share ideas, and certainly we appreciate the questions that have been asked. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is a choice between Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer. Our Conservative plan is that of affordability. When we look at what we are doing in our campaign platform, we're looking at reduction of universal tax cuts. We increase the age credit. We're looking at reintroduction of children's sports and arts tax credits, expansion of disability tax credits, eliminating the GST on home heating, and of course, eliminating the carbon tax. So those are the types of things we're doing, but we're also looking at ways in which we're going to pay for this. And that's removing $1.5 billion from corporate welfare for companies who don't need it. And we've talked about those companies here today. Reducing the amount of foreign aid by 25%. Removing $250 million from the Asia Infrastructure Bank. Scrapping the failed $35 billion Canada Infrastructure Bank. Now folks, if Justin Trudeau is re-elected, all of this goes away. Our oil and gas sector will continue to struggle. Our agricultural industry will continue to be targeted. Alberta's place as a province of opportunity will continue to be threatened. And what we have to do is to do away with the politics of division that has been the hallmark with Justin Trudeau. Whether it was the Canada Summer Jobs Program, overzealous political correctness, or the many other things that the Liberals have been doing, it is a case of dividing and labeling Canadians at every opportunity. He's pitted region against region, Canadians against each other, and now is the advantage for minority governments, Conservatives against Conservatives, because the only one that wins is Justin Trudeau, as was mentioned earlier in the first introduction by our Liberal candidate. And we saw in Alberta what happened when Conservatives were focused on what divided them instead of what united them. And it took the disastrous turn of the NDP government to learn that lesson. And I have no intention to allow that to happen again, because I'm focused on what unites us as Conservatives and as Canadians. And it is critical that Justin Trudeau is a one-term Prime Minister, and the only way that that can happen is by electing a Conservative majority government. And I ask for your support on October 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone coming out, and it makes me proud that rural gets the crowds out and that the Burley's bigger centers do not. So thank you for attending tonight. Thank you to our candidates for coming out. But especially, thank you for the questions. I think the questions were great, and it's nice to hear the answers. Whether we like them or not, we get to hear the answers. I wish we had more time to get through all the questions, so that some of you could have got your answers, but maybe we got enough. So again, drive safe. I know you're busy, gentlemen. Good night to you all, and thank you for attending.